Welcome everyone to episode 17, or this is 18 maybe. I don't know. I'm so bad with this. It's 18. I did this last week too. This is crazy. Today's episode, I have another guest. This is 2 weeks in a row with a guest, and it is none other than my friend Jacob. Jacob, what's up, man? Good morning to you.
What's up, guys? How are we doing?
It is another morning, another podcast episode. I'm excited. It's one of my favorite things to do nowadays is sit down and talk about some stuff, motivational, positive stuff. Like I feel like in general, the world needs more of that. And that's part of the whole reason I started this whole podcast. So I feel pretty good.
Absolutely, yeah. The world needs more positivity.
Exactly. Yeah, and
Yeah.
and since I watch Gary Vee so much, I get some of my inspiration from him. But he's just like, I'm gonna find every single one of you that is so negative, and I'm gonna literally suck the negativity out of you because you're gonna be so exhausted from hearing me talk about positive shit all the time. So, and I'm just like, cool, respectable, yeah. So,
Yeah, dude, I love Gary Vee. I recently got into eating blueberries more. It's random, but there's a clip of him where he's like, I eat blueberries like it's my fucking job. So every time I'm eating those, I think of that.
yeah, there's a bunch of memes about it too, where you get Gary V2 and Gary V3 that were like mimicking him and doing parody videos of like the way he acts and stuff.
Yeah,
They always talk about blueberries. It's funny. It's a good
dude, they're
idea
super
though.
good. Yeah.
My coworker, he's a little older, but he's like a model human. He just goes to the gym 5 days a week, consistently for like 30 years. Literally every day, even on his cheat days, he'll eat like a pound of fruit, drinks nothing but water. Like this man's a machine, and it's I get a lot of motivation from him when it comes to eating healthy and trying to be healthy. But some of that comes from you. And you're
Thank you.
actually wearing the shirt. I was gonna talk about this. You already know, but you are a personal trainer, and
Yeah,
you've been
I
training
mean,
me and giving me some coaching and stuff, and that's been a great experience for me because it's something I struggle with, and we'll get into it a little bit throughout the episode. But today I kind of want to talk about like habits and gym motivation and stuff like that, just staying healthy in general. Because you said blueberries, and like for me, I can't eat blueberries that often. Like I don't crave them that much. Maybe it's just I have to get some of the other unhealthy food out of my palate first, but that's just me. So I struggle with that. I feel like that's a lot of people though, where it's like you if you have a choice between like a sausage McMuffin and it takes you like 2 minutes to stop, and then it's like a $4 breakfast and it's made for you versus going to the store spending like however many dollars on fresh fruit every day.
yeah,
And that's a real struggle too, right? Most people wouldn't have the money for that. So
yeah, it gets tough, dude. It took me. I had tried blueberries and blackberries some years ago, and I wasn't a fan of them, honestly. It was one of those things where it was tolerable to eat, but I wouldn't go out of my way to buy it. And then I I've been working with an older client, like an in-home client, and he rants about how good raspberries are. And so I happened to buy those, and then the blueberries are right there. I was like, yeah, I'll run it again and see kind of like what happens with these. And something clicked where I ate a few and I was like, damn, these are fire. So yeah, it was weird. It's like it might be some of my habit changing as far as like what I eat, but at the same time, I think just like your palate changes as you age. Um, so it might have been what I had a couple years ago. My palate isn't what it is now, but yeah, I've been tearing them up. I get at least one pack a week of each, and then I try to snack on them throughout the day.
that's a good
And,
idea. For
yeah,
sure. I've been trying
because
to
I
make conscious decisions about that for sure. Making sure, I skip the Cheez Its and go for some strawberries or something. But for me, the reason why I struggle, maybe you have some insight to this, but like when I eat fruit, it's it's almost shocking to my taste buds where it's like I'll get this weird like bitter sour face kind of vibe, and then it just doesn't make me want to eat more of them if that makes sense. Like but as soon as I
yeah.
get past like that shock of eating something super cold, and I guess it's not bitter because it's sweet, but it gives me a bitter vibe. I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but
Yeah, I think that kind of ties in how you talked about like with some people just the way they eat when they go to fruit or things that are more natural and less processed. You get the rawness of what a what a feeling of regular sweetness is versus like the sweetness from a piece of watermelon is not going to be the same sweetness from a piece of candy flavored watermelon. And I think a lot of the times people's perception is because they have so much of the processed food or the like the junk food, quote unquote, um, that becomes their perception of what fruit should taste like. Whereas it really should be the fruit should be the primary, and then you get what I mean.
yeah.
Um,
No, I
yeah,
do
so
get what you mean, and that's actually interesting you say that. I never thought about it like that. So
yeah, it kind of
nice.
alters people's perception. I do so like I'm a huge fan of almond joys, and I I just love coconut flavored stuff. But I realized like when I had an actual coconut, uh, it w- it was very mild. Like there was almost no sweetness to it at all. I was like, oh shit, it's because in the almond joy they pack it full of sugar, and then that intensifies the flavor. Whereas like you have like a regular coconut, and you're like, oh okay, this is what it's naturally supposed to taste like.
Yeah.
And
Which
yeah, it kind
I've
of
actually
alters your.
been really surprised with like banana flavored stuff. I even had like recently last night actually banana chocolate chip or peanut butter chip or something. And
Hmm.
it's like this low carb, healthy or ish ice cream, which I don't really know honestly. I know it's lower carb, but it's
Yeah.
just probably full of other sweeteners that are it might be a little healthier, probably not as healthy as it could be, but still, whatever. It was
Mhm.
really good, and I assume because bananas are not low in carb naturally, that it was banana flavoring and maybe some sweeteners, but it tasted very similar to a banana. And I actually love bananas. I eat most of my fruit is a banana, and I'll switch it up between like watermelon and stuff like that. And I stick to my yogurt pretty religiously with some protein granola in the morning, but yeah, I was very shocked some of the processed stuff that you can actually get nowadays where it does taste very similar.
Oh, dude, it is wild. I had well, this isn't as much of a artificially flavored thing. I mean, it is, but comparing it to a natural food, but the green apple Gatorades out of this world. But it tastes almost exactly like a Jolly Rancher. I know I'm kind of segueing off, but the ability to take the taste or even the sensation that you get from a taste of something and manipulate that and put it into candy, for example, or low carb ice cream is it's getting pretty intense.
It is for sure.
Yeah.
And no, that's exactly what we were just talking about for sure. And actually today on this episode, since I got you here, Mr. Jacob, you work at Breakthrough. You're actually wearing the shirt, and I mentioned it
Yeah.
earlier. And you
Yes, indeed.
trained me at a actually a MMA club MMA is
Yep.
what it's called, which is nice because it's closer for me. You're actually a little bit of a drive, so appreciate you for meeting
Yeah,
me
no
in the
problem, man.
middle there. Um, I just want to get some thoughts from you, man. Like your journey and just because you were used to be a little overweight. Just
Mhm.
tell me a little bit about that story and like how you're able to stick with it all these years. Because I'm sure that's what most people want to know. They're like, what's the get rich quick scheme? Like with weight loss and stuff like that. But let me hear it from you. Like, how did you stick to it and make it an actual daily routine?
That's actually a really good question. A lot of people will want to find the quick route, and you'll see it all the time too. People will go on a hardcore diet and they'll work out a shit ton, and then they'll lose weight, they'll get results, and then they realize they're like, oh, this is hard, and like this sucks really bad, and I don't like any of this. So then they stop doing it, and then they gain the weight, and then maybe next year they got a trip to Florida and they're like, I'm trying to be on the beach. So they do it again and it just becomes this really repetitive cycle. And you have to think of it as long term. So it it's cliche, but it becomes a lifestyle change. And it's not like I'm some crazy fitness guru, but it's very small, subtle changes where you have to uh, you have to be really focused and know what's going on. You have to be able to question yourself, like, okay, what's in my food? Like, what am I putting in my body today? How's it going to perform? Because a lot of times, what I was doing is I had to to get my meals around what I would do for my workout because my nutrition was always kind of spotty, but I'd always been a fan of working out. And there would be times where I'd put myself through pretty intense workouts, and because of what I ate prior, it would affect that workout as far as like making me nauseous, or if you work out too hard, it wrecks your body.
Yeah.
Um, but I think a lot of it really, man, was just small, subtle changes, and then learning to listen to myself instead of applying a principle of cut this out, cut that out, follow this diet. Learning to listen to myself and my body first set a foundation for me to follow everything from there. Um, so developing small habits, like the topic of today, I would make sure that I would change my breakfast. So I found a breakfast that was light enough that I could work out, within that morning and still feel fine. And then it still carried me over into lunch. And then little stuff like that. So at first it started out as cereal, and, it was Captain Crunch, and I started playing around with that. And then I changed to like a organic oat based cereal. Now, for the past 8 months, not kidding, Monday through Friday, I eat oatmeal with raw maple syrup and a little dash of milk, and that's been cash money really for a while. But yeah, dude, I would say that it helped me to be just consistent and listening to my body, and letting myself know the difference between quote unquote good and bad foods, but at the same time not beating myself up if I decided to go on a date night with my wife, or if me and some friends got together and I had a couple slices of pizza. Because a lot of people they'll beat themselves up over it, and then it just becomes this war that kind of they wage with themselves of, oh well, I messed up, so I might as well just stop doing this because I'm not getting any wins out of it. Uh, yeah, so just following small day-to-day routines, um, listening to yourself, and then getting small wins. I'm a huge proponent of winning the little battles.
For sure.
Sorry,
Yeah, me too.
kind of
Because we
ranting on
talk
that.
about it a lot. We talk about the mindset of it all too, and my mindset is super positive, but it's not super disciplined. And I know that about myself for sure, especially when it comes to the gym. Eating healthy is not too much of a struggle for me anymore.
Mhm.
I it still could be way better, but it's a lot better than it used to be, and I don't eat 3 meals a day of fried foods anymore. In fact, my breakfast, like I said, is mainly just yogurt and protein granola. And sometimes I'll throw in some fruit in there, or lately I've been eating a banana with just some water, just drink some water and eat a banana in the morning.
Yep.
Um, I'm starting to condition my body to where I'm not super hungry in the morning, which isn't my preference. I love breakfast. I would rather eat a
Mhm.
ton in the morning and then maybe glide throughout the day. But my habit more so is to eat uh, whatever I eat in the morning, but then later on at night, I'll get the urge to snack or eat a huge dinner. So eating a huge breakfast is not going to help me if I'm eating a huge dinner. And then it's like, I'm just gaining weight that way. So it is like what you said, finding out about yourself, because I'm trying to figure out the best way to lose weight consistently with the things I'm already doing, because I feel like it's 80% diet. Um, and from there, getting in the gym is harder for me.
Mhm.
Um, but if I have a guided routine or an intentional reason to go to the gym and work out, which is what I'm trying to figure out with you training and stuff, I'll be more prone to go to the gym. Same with eating, because nowadays I just make my food from home. I actually only eaten out, with my exception to when I went to Chicago. I've only eaten out 2 or 3 times since then, which has been a few weeks now. So
Nice, nice. Yeah, one thing that people don't talk about a lot, just a segue off of the eating out. one thing people don't address a lot is what some consider like financial health, and it's really just financial literacy and kind of understanding good ways to spend money. And not that I'm against eating out, because date nights, you have a good time, go out, whatever. Uh, but cooking at home, dude, saves a ton of money.
It does. Oh my
Yeah,
god. I was just talking about this with my coworker. Sorry to interrupt. You just sparked something in my brain. And
yeah,
I was just like, dude, I used to eat out every day for lunch, and it's like even if I got a small portion or kept it somewhat healthy, it's still expensive. And I'm like, I'm saving so much money now that I'm basically, 3, almost 4 weeks in of just basically eating nothing but what I have at the house, and then that's it. I'm gonna turn into one of those parents that's like, oh, can we get McDonald's? Like, no, we got food at home. Like, that's gonna be me for sure.
dude. Honestly, I don't blame you. I mean, especially when you start whipping it up in the kitchen, it gets pretty good. A lot of people have a perception that uh, healthy food is supposed to be quote unquote healthy food, but it's supposed to be bland and not flavorful. But really, that's not the case. Once you start to experiment with stuff, dude, and you find a good consistent set of meals, it's a good rotation that you can go through, and every now and then you can spice it up and change something or try something new. But cooking in itself is just as much of an experience as losing weight or going to the gym or whatever the case is. I think it gives you a better chance to appreciate your food. You build a relationship with it, so that doesn't sound too crazy.
No, not at all. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a everyday struggle for a lot of people. In fact, if we look at statistics, the statistics tell us as well. So, I mean, I don't really go by like I'm a circumstantial kind of guy. I don't really like
Yeah.
going solely based off statistics or solely based off of like one person's side of the story. Like none of that. Uh, Huge like listen to both sides first. I'm sure there's a lot of reasons why people choose to eat out. Convenience being one of them,
Hmm.
but it's also just their craving and their habit too, like and changing the habit of just waking up and then having the urge to on your way to work stop by Speedway to get some coffee, or on your way to work stop by Dunkin' and get the 6 donut holes with a coffee. And that habit gets harder to break as you get older, so I assume a lot of our older um, humans on this earth right now have more of a challenge trying to break that. And at some point they're just like, well, that's just who I am, so I'm not going to change it. um, which is unfortunate because it's never too late. As long as you're living and breathing, you can pretty much do anything. But I think that's part of it too. Like once you have kids and then you get into the routine of oh, let's go to McDonald's, get you a Happy Meal, all this stuff, and then it builds up, and next thing you know, because people say time flies when you have a kid. I don't have one, but
Hmm.
7 years go by, and then you have like a 7-year-old, and you're celebrating their birthday with, catered like Chick-fil-A or whatever. And Chick-fil-A is
Yeah.
probably one of the healthier fast foods, but if you're constantly piling on those decisions, it gets harder to break out of, and the habit itself goes both ways. Like because when you went through your journey and started to stick with it, now it seems kind of natural, right? So when
Yeah.
you're doing the opposite of that, it becomes the same kind of hard to break out of. Because for you, it would probably be pretty hard to break out of a fitness routine or a somewhat healthy eating routine because it becomes part of who you are over time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I actually completely agree with that. It becomes less of a chore the more you enjoy it, but it can take some time to enjoy. At first, it feels really hard. So for me, I'm on that weird end of the spectrum where it's like, I used to love work. I mean, I still do, but I loved working out. It was never like, oh, I got to go to the gym today. Now, not saying I don't have those days, but I would say there's weeks on end where I'll go where I don't feel like, ugh, I have to work out. Most of the time, it's I get to work out. I I I get the opportunity to do this, and yeah, like you said, you build into it so much, and it's hard to make those big adjustments. So I would make smaller ones. And to segue off of the habits of having McDonald's, or as a kid and your parents get you the Happy Meal or whatnot. Some of the you can even you can regress that thought process and go even further. Like, okay, like next time you go out to eat, like let's say you go to Chick-fil-A, you get a sandwich and some fries, and you normally get a pop. I guarantee if you get a water instead of a pop, it's gonna like the whole meal is gonna be like, yo, what the hell? Because a lot of times we're used to having that carbonation, some sugar in there to pair with our meal. So that was honestly the first thing that I started switching out when I did go out to eat. Um, like when I lost my 100 pounds, I didn't have a set diet. A lot of it was just being intuitive and then learning how to control my portions and then listen to myself. So yeah, I mean, I guess for any of the viewers or you yourself, if you don't already do it, like next time you go out to eat, get a water instead of a pop, and then just listen to how it changes your perception of the meal. And yeah, it's just weird games. A lot of it was that. Every now and then I would switch out. If I got a burger and some fries, I would switch out my fries. And sometimes I would just get a burger, or instead of a double, I'd get like a single patty burger or whatever the case is. But yeah, making a lot of those small adjustments, and then over time you'll start to find like, oh, okay, I don't need the pop. Like it doesn't taste as good as it used to. So then it doesn't become as much of a chore because you're like, ah, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah. Drinking water for me never came naturally. Used to I remember a younger version of myself, which I actually talked a little bit about this, like what we're talking about now. Um, so and like mental triggers and stuff like that. Like I was talking about when I used to drink a 12 pack of Pepsi sometimes during binging gaming sessions. I'm like looking at it now, I'm like, golly. But I was at work the other day and I set a tin can down on the counter and I heard the ting sound of that, and it kind of brought back the memory of me drinking all the, because I don't drink pop anymore, and it's actually been, you know, with the exception of, you know, one maybe two times a month. It's probably more like one every other month where I'll
Mm-hmm.
get the craving for it, but very rarely. And I normally stick to the zero sugar options just because the sugar itself, I can't do much of that anymore. I'm not a sweet person, not as much as I used to be. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I did find over time, like when I just started, it did come as a forceful action. I did kind of was like, okay, I'm just gonna put it down, and you know, and I had the motivation to stick with it because I wanted to not drink it anymore. So I haven't had consistent like pop drinking for about a decade now, and from there it just turned into now I don't even drink caffeine, and that sounds crazy to most people when I tell them that. They're like, you don't, well, how do you even get through the day? And I'm like, well, it sucks, you know, because I'm a naturally tired person and I have to like force myself to wake up. And part of this journey for me is it's a slow process. You know, I started with the pop 10 years ago, right? And it could literally be any time now where I add something else to it, but as long as I'm making the progress, it doesn't really matter to me how long it takes. And so the pop is a good start for me. Like small changes, like you said. I was actually at Wendy's the other day because I forgot to bring my lunch, and in fact, it was because I didn't wake up early enough. But I only got 6 nuggets. I did get a large fry, but six. I would normally get 10 nuggets and a large fry. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
get a drink, but I did get a small frosty because I wanted to try the strawberry one. And to
Mm-hmm.
me, that's like a lighter meal than what I would normally get. And I realized, because I eat slower nowadays than what I used to, just
Mm-hmm.
naturally. I don't know why. But I noticed that like a lot of the food that I used to order is way too much. And it's starting to really help me
Yeah.
because when I eat slower, my body gets to that food wall a lot faster. So that helps me too. And I've been going through that for the last few months, and it's been working. I'm actually down a few pounds. I don't know if that is consistently from my choices or if that's from like fluctuation of water weight or what, but we'll find out.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Absolutely, good job, dude. Yeah, to segue on that, it it might not seem like a big step at all, but little choices like the Wendy's, like when you go into Wendy's and you get a 6 piece instead of a 10 piece. Those are the little battles that I talk about because a lot of people don't think about that at all. They're like, well, I have to switch out this whole thing, and I'll get a salad and a water. It's like, no, dude, you can regress it to the smallest portion and go from a 10 piece to a 6 piece because that becomes that's your little battle. You win that, and then maybe the next time you get a medium fry, and then you do that for a week, and the next time you get a small fry, and then you go without the frosting, just get a water, and then you can turn that into a weeks long. You could turn that into a month to 2 month long process where you're slowly just starting to wean down your portion sizes, but at the same time, you can start to switch stuff out. Excuse me. And those are the, like, it doesn't have to be big drastic changes, because that in itself, like, let's say you get down to your 6 count nugget and a small fry and a water, and that's still giving, your brain is still triggering like your endorphins. You're like, yeah, like I still like this. This is good stuff. But at the same time, you're not eating 300 calories, 500 calories more, just in that one meal.
Yeah. And I've been much more conscious about it too. Like the MyFitnessPal apps and like some of those other tracking apps have never been I guess natural for me. I don't really think they're natural for anybody, but it's never something I was able to stick to for any reason. Um and so I did stick to it at one point when I was losing a ton of weight a few years ago. In fact,
Yeah.
I'm in a good middle weight right now. I used to be from where I'm at now, about 40 pounds heavier, and but I also used to be about 50 pounds lighter. So there's the silver lining right
Yeah.
there. You know, I did gain some weight back, especially with COVID. Got a lot more lazy, um, but I've basically hit my max weight at this point. You know, kind of like where you maintain it and you stop gaining weight. That's kind of
Mhm.
like I've been at this weight for at least 6 months now. So I've
Okay.
kind of maintained it, which is a good sign. And then you just kind of have to figure out how to go back down. But yeah, I mean, it for me, like it's just the small changes that I've been making lately that hopefully add up to a big win. And like I said before, you know, I don't even crave pop anymore. I don't crave a lot of the sugar or anything. My biggest problem is fried foods, probably, like for real.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, yeah. Fried foods are so good. But yeah, I think that was like, along with pop, fried foods for me were the one of the things earlier to go on, as far as like what I got rid of first. Every now and then I'll still have, if we go out to eat, like I said, I'll have like French fries with a burger or something. Um, but as far as like fried chicken and things of that sort, I mean, even at home, we don't even. I'd say we maybe fry something once a year. Um, Honestly, most of my cravings come from sweets. I have a huge sweet tooth. Um, so learning how to wean those off, every now, like I said, every now and then I'll still treat myself. So I'll have like a pastry or something like that. But it's learning how to be intuitive, and just listen to your body and make adjustments on the fly. Uh, like you said, not that counting calories is a bad thing, because everybody has their method. So they'll go onto a diet where they don't have to think about it. They can just read whatever, and then, okay, well, this is what I'm going to make. Or you can count your calories, where you can be a little bit more intuitive, and you're like, okay, cool, I can make these adjustments, I can fit this into my macros, I can do this, I can do that. So you can still be a little bit more experimental. um but even like, I didn't count my calories at all. A lot of it was literally just, if I eat this and I feel like I'm too full, then on my next meal I'm just going to eat a little bit less. And then if I start to get a little bit hungrier towards dinner, then I'll just eat a little bit more. And a little bit to me is less than a handful. Um, Lately, I've been into, like, if I pack my lunch, I've been doing like a baby spring mix of, it's like spinach, kale, like there's a little mix of greens, and then I'll throw some chicken and some cheese in there. But I used to overload it with a shit ton of chicken. So now I've just been going like my palm. I grab my palm and I throw that in there, and then I get at least two palmfuls of spinach, and I don't have to weigh it. I'm not doing all this extra shit. I just grab it, boom, 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 throw it in there, mix it, and then call it a day. Um, and that seems to help a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, one other thing, it just so I don't forget, is people have this stigma that being hungry is gonna kill them. So they'll get hunger pains throughout the day, and they're like, "Oh man, I need to eat. Like I'm doing this, I'm doing that." But it's really just like, your body needs something. It might not always be food. So you can fight off some like hunger pains with if you drink a cup of water. Maybe your body's just dehydrated and it's like, I need something else. So you put something in there, and a lot of times, like, you're not going to go into starvation mode. Realistically, you can go days without food and be perfectly fine. Um, but I started to think in terms of hunger as just any other regular emotion or kind of feeling. So you wake up in the morning, you're going to be tired. Throughout the day, maybe you'll get irritable, or throughout the day, maybe you'll get hungry. Um, so letting myself be hungry for small amounts of time, maybe every couple days or every day, um, made me appreciate one, my food just a little bit more, but made me appreciate the ability of listening to my body and understanding what that feeling of hunger brought to me as far as a sensation. If that doesn't sound too weird.
Right, it doesn't. And actually, when you say that, I'm thinking about my own experience too. Like, because I've always had an issue with food, and in terms of like just overeating all the time. Like, some of my family, in fact, I vividly remember some of my family when we were at like one of these fast food places once, and he was like, well, when I eat to get full, and the fullness, put that in quotes, that's like, it's different for everybody. It's like subjective. So when I hear that as a kid, I'm like, oh, I have to stuff myself full, and that's like a good thing. It's tough to break out of, but I actually, last night I was gonna treat myself to some pizza. It was, July 4th, and I didn't want to be that guy that ordered food, but I was going to. I was like, if Papa John's is open, I'm gonna do that. I don't even crave Papa John's often, but it started to grow on me. It used to not be my go-to, but now it's pretty good to me. So I was gonna do that, and then I was like, then I have to pay for it for one, because now I've been so used to just packing my own lunch. So that was one of the things I was thinking about. Then
Mm-hmm.
I got into this routine of only ordering what I would eat in that particular moment, and not giving myself the ability to have leftovers, which has kind of helped me too. It's one of the
Dude,
reasons
yeah.
I don't eat pizza much anymore, because everybody knows me as the pizza god, the pizza king, all that stuff. And I do treat myself to it. It's still my favorite food, but I've gotten to a point where every time I order it, I always order the large because there's a coupon, and I have to pay delivery fee anyway, so might as well get more food so I have leftovers. And then the leftovers turn into, I order this pizza at like noon for lunch, and then I eat the whole pizza, throughout the whole day for like dinner and stuff too. But the whole pizza, I mean, I've looked at the calorie count on those things. It's not good. It's like a large pizza, even if it's just pepperoni, it's like over 2,000, 3,000 calories sometimes. And
Mm-hmm.
that's just in that particular, that's not counting if I'm doing snacks. And mainly when I do that is when I'm not having much physical activity either, and all the sodium and grease and all that stuff, and it started to turn me off a little bit, because when I got rid of my breakfast and replaced it with not fried, not processed foods, just take real Greek yogurt and put it with some granola, that's taken away much of my cravings in the morning. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
normally get any sort of cravings till the afternoon or the evening, which is something I'm trying to balance out too. But that's what helped me, because I started, like, I don't even give myself the option anymore to order pizza. It's either going to be somebody's going to help me eat it, or I'm going to do it all in one sitting so I don't have leftovers and be tempted later on to eat more.
Mm-hmm. Dude, it's tough with pizza because typically the portion sizes are giant. Like
Yeah.
I've been onto a burger kick. I've mentioned it a few times already. So if we go out, I'll get a burger, but it's like some burgers they're just a shit ton of calories. But
Huge. Yeah.
dude, right. But you can still minimize that some, but with a pizza, dude, like if you get a large pizza, it's hard to minimize. Like that's a shit ton. And I used to do the same thing. I would just get it, and even if I didn't finish, I'm like, all right, there's leftovers. But like you said, you still keep snacking on it. One thing that's actually really helped me a lot, and this goes for food outside of just pizza, but just like you said, sharing it, because there's something nice about like offering somebody food and they're like, yeah, sure, like why not? Like you both get some enjoyment out of it, and then at the same time, uh, want you kind of pass that on to them. So you make them happy because you're offering them food. You get a win because you're not going to end up eating this whole pizza by yourself. And then it becomes a little bit more of a communal thing where everybody can enjoy it all at once. And that'll even go like if me and my buddies go out to eat. Let's say we all get our meal, and then I've gotten into the habit if they say something about purchasing, like getting an appetizer. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll only get one if somebody eats it with me. So if I don't want to get stuck with a whole appetizer and then my whole meal and then all this, so I'm only going to get things that I can share with you guys, and then I'll have my little portion of what I'll keep to myself solely. And making eating a community thing has helped me tons. And yeah, it's a super nice thing.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, I don't even order appetizers anymore unless somebody's with me. Like,
Dude,
legit.
yeah.
I'm just like, okay, if I'm gonna be the only one doing this, it's not a single portion, and I could literally eat an appetizer as a whole meal. I just don't do it, and it sucks because there's so many good things when you go out to eat, and you want to try it. I'm a sampler guy, I can't help it. I'm just like, my mom gets something, I'm like, ooh, let me try that real quick. Let me have a fry. Let me have, if I get FOMO with
Yeah.
food, dude, it's bad. And I don't really get FOMO with much else, because I realize that no matter where I'm at, I know that's where I'm supposed to be because I made that choice and I'm okay with that. I don't get FOMO in terms of, oh, I'm just gonna stay in Saturday night and I see Snapchat and you see all these people going out and having a good time. It just doesn't bother me. I'm like, oh cool, they're having a great time. But I do get FOMO with food. And it's like when we're out to
Yeah.
eat, I'm not gonna do that with my friends, but if it's with my family, then I'll definitely be like, oh, let me grab a little bit of each of this, and just try it. And cause I'm just a sampler guy. It's just how it is.
Yeah, man. You could play into that as far as to segue into physical activity things. If your mindset is already kind of playing on that, you can build into that. So um like your disc golf stuff, you can play like that's a good physical because a lot of people think that you need to go to the gym. And coming from a trainer, dude, honestly, you don't need to go to the gym. Um I mean it's nice, like it's it's good to have a trainer, especially a knowledgeable one, that if you have a specific goal, you can go through. But if you're a regular old Billy Bob down the street and you just want to lose a few pounds, you could like go from a large pizza to a medium and then start playing disc golf and then get some steps in and start to find some success. Um, but I think it's good for people to try a multitude of physical activity because a lot of people are like, all right, I'm gonna go to Planet Fitness. I'm gonna hop on the treadmill. um, or I'm gonna hop on the leg press machine or whatever the case is, because that's what they see in the commercials. That's how they advertise everything. And then Instagram is wild with people lifting all this weight and everything, but it's really that's not it. Like you can go buy a basketball for however much a basketball costs now, and then go to your local court and then shoot around. And you can have your sampler of physical activity, and you're like, what? I'll try each one of these just a little bit, and whichever ones I like, I'll keep. And then from there, you just cycle through it.
That's a good idea. You know what? You just opened my mind up to a whole new world, and it's crazy because I generally try to think about different ways to do things to keep it open and stuff. That was mind blowing for me just now when you said that. And it kind of reminded me of that book you recommended to me. The reason why we're doing this episode, Atomic Habits. I
Dude,
love that book and I listened to it all the way through. And he talks about so many good things in that book where it's like the 2 minute rule, and for this particular topic here that we're talking about, I mean, that's a good idea. You could do, you know, instead of the way that he talks about it, which is go to the gym, but you can only stay for 5 minutes with the example that he gave,
yeah.
maybe go to the gym, but since you made the trip anyway, especially with gas and stuff nowadays, you could do like 2 minutes on each machine, and that's all you're allowed to do. 2 minutes on the treadmill, 2 minutes on stair climber, whatever it is, but you get like 5 to 10 machines in, and your body is like dreading it because it doesn't know when it's going to end theoretically. Everybody knows like 45 minutes to an hour, but that's a long time to think about, especially if it's doing something you don't want to do. So if you do
Yeah.
minimize it to like literally 1 to 2 minutes on each machine and literally just fly through it, I mean, you're going to be going from 1 to 1 to 1 to 1, like back to back to back. And it's going to be a lot faster than you know it. You're going to do 10 machines and 20 minutes has gone by and you're like, cool, I feel great. And instead of getting, a full like 45 to an hour minute or an hour, 45 minutes to an hour workout, you're getting 20, but it went faster than you think. And I think this is really important too. You get through the fear of the machines. They can be fearful. A lot of people don't do stuff
Absolutely.
because they're not familiar with the process and because if you don't use it, you lose it. So even if you used to go to the gym all the time, 3 years later, it's not the same gym. Your body just kind of works itself up to, oh, what if this? What if this? But if you're actually making that progress to go to the gym, and you do like literally 2 minutes on 10 different machines and leave immediately, you're going to get
Mhm.
familiarized and you're going to experience much more to be able to actually stick with it because then you're going to find a machine you really love and you're going to stick to that as like your core workout and then you'll sprinkle in some other stuff to add on top of it. So that's been my
Absolutely.
motivation with some of the workouts you send me. I literally do A's and B's like not often, but I do it enough to create the habit of thinking about it.
Hmm.
In fact, I do it for maybe 30 seconds to a minute every few days, just because
Okay.
I don't think about it too often. But when I do, I'm like, okay, let me get this in real quick while I'm thinking about it because I want to
Yep.
build the habit. And it takes much longer for me to build a habit than maybe it does some other people because I talk myself out of things a lot. But I think a lot of people have
Mhm.
that problem too. So that in that book, which I just went on a whole tangent, but in that book, that's what stuck out to me. And that's the kind of advice I've been taking. Like literally, if you don't want to do something and you know you need to do it, 2 minutes and then revisit it tomorrow, literally take two because
Absolutely.
people are like, oh, I got to do this whole 30-minute hour workout, or they see like these super buff people doing this P90 freaking like 5 minute 10 minute super intense workout. But if
Yeah.
you're coming from zero, you're not going to be able to do a 10 to 15 minute super intense workout. You're going to quit after 60 seconds. So,
Hmm.
and it's also about going at your own pace, like you said, knowing yourself and being able to stick with it. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Um, those are really good points. Yeah, dude. I still use the 2 minute rule. I had read it.
nice.
God, I can't even remember. Maybe year and a half, 2 years ago. And mine for the most part was if I, if I had to like check my email, I set it where I'm like, if it's something small that I can get done in 2 minutes, might as well just get it done right there. So whether it's like running through paperwork or checking emails, responding to people, whatnot, I try to make sure that I just get it done. Boom. Or if I'm at the gym and there's some weights laying around, it's like, okay, cool. This is gonna take me less than 2 minutes. Boom, get it done. And that way I keep myself up on it. But yeah, like I feel like a lot of people when they go into the gym, like you said, like when they're coming from zero, it's intimidating. Like it's really, it's a scary thing. I remember when I first went to weightlifting for football my freshman year of high school, and these guys were doing power cleans, which is a Olympic style movement. You basically just you deadlift the bar, you pull, you scoop underneath it, uh, and then I think they were doing jerks. You're basically taking a barbell from the floor overhead, and they're dropping it, and like you could hear it from outside of the weight house, and it's just like this constant like dun, dun. And it was steel on top of rubber. We didn't have bumper plates, so like the metal was clanking together, and like there's loud ass music playing, and you walk in, and I'm this chubby little ninth grader, and I'm looking at all these juniors and seniors, and they're just throwing this heavy ass weight around. Everybody's grunting. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like I was terrified because the most weights that I had was I had a 15-pound dumbbell that my brother gave me that I would play with. And my uncles, when I was little, they're like, yeah, do some curls, do this. I was like, okay, whatever. And then I still remember that because I walked in that weight room and I was like, this is terrifying. Like I don't think I could ever get into this. Luckily, I had some friends with me that would go, but what ended up happening is we went together and then they all started to dwindle down. Over time they all left and I still ended up staying. And I was horrible at football, but I loved weight room and I love the application of how the training can affect an athlete's performance. That's kind of how I am where I am now. But yeah, that was kind of the roots of it, was actually me being scared and like, holy shit, these guys are gonna rip me in half. But I think there's if you look at the average person going into a gym to work out, they're not they're not lifting 700 pounds. They're not slapping their chest. They're not gonna throw weights over their head. They're really just going in there to move. They're just going in there to lose weight. Maybe some of them just got out of surgery. They're trying to get out of pain. And I think that there's a perception that you're going to go into a gym, and if you're overweight, for example, you're going to get made fun of. And it hurts me a little bit because you would think of a gym as a place where everybody is going in there as a whole to get better, and you don't want somebody going in there thinking that everybody as a whole that's getting better is making fun of them because they're seen as quote unquote lesser than, and that's not necessarily the case. Now granted, there are a few assholes out there, but for the most part everybody's trying to get better at whatever their category of health or ideal health is. And I think honestly, for if if there is somebody that is terrified to go into a gym, or they are just worried about getting made fun of or looked down at a gym, I think one thing that would really help is just introducing yourself to somebody. So like if you're at a gym and you're doing blah 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 and you're like, fuck man, I just don't feel right here. Maybe you see somebody and you're like, hey man, I like your shoes. And they're like, thanks, dude, blah blah blah. And like you shoot the shit and like, what's your workout? Oh well, I'm doing blah blah blah. Okay. And then over time it just becomes this thing where that's like your gym buddy. And then it lets you know that they're also human. And
Yeah,
I think that's, yeah, just getting a better perception of what a regular human is.
dude, I totally agree. Wait, you're talking about social interaction in 2022? A lot of people
Dude,
not a lot of
you
people
are
not too
not
comfortable with
lying,
that.
dude.
I mean,
Yeah, you are
I
not
don't care.
lying.
Like, I will go up to anybody if I have something intentional to say, as long as it's positive. You know, I generally don't have negative thoughts, so I don't think it in general, and so it doesn't come out of my mouth either, because it
Hmm.
just doesn't even start in my brain. And that whole process is a rewiring. The mental of that is tough, because really physical activity or being healthy in general is like, it's got to be like 80-90% mental for sure, because most of it
Oh yeah.
is just making the right choices to eat right and be healthy in that sense, like what we talked about before, and then making the right choices to go to the gym and actually be there. The physical part is a very small portion of that. So and what you just said, the social interaction is a little mental as well, but I agree, dude, because it's all about who you know at the end of the day. And if you're
Oh.
wanting to get better, there's going to be somebody who wants to have that social interaction as well. But if they're there by themselves, then maybe they want to have a gym buddy too. And obviously, people may not want to go that route because of rejection. But
Hmm.
you just have a few simple conversations, nothing crazy, and then the next 2 or 3 times you go to the gym, maybe you see that same person there, and you're like, oh hey, what's up, like, and then it becomes a familiar face, which then becomes easier to talk to. And most people don't like the process of starting from zero with anything, with the gym, with social interaction. They have their friends and they're like, yeah, I only got like 2 or 3 friends, and I'm like, that's cool, because you can really only have a few close friends that you can actually keep up with almost every day or every week or whatever. um, and because there's just so many people in the world, and you still get the same 24 hours just like everyone else does. But
Yeah.
I feel like some people cut that off and then don't open themselves to the opportunity of maybe meeting that person at the gym who might just somehow say the right things that motivates them um, to then go through the workout and actually enjoy it, or because everybody clicks at their own moment. And it
Mhm.
takes one particular voice or one particular phrase that just triggers something in their brain that clicks, and then they're just a whole new person overnight. Sometimes it literally just happens like that, but it takes repetition too, like both physically and mentally. Repetition mentally in terms of having the experience of it, and then repetition physically in terms of like building the habit for your body to have the muscle memory and stuff. So, but I feel like a lot of people don't, they just cut themselves off after, like you say, social interaction. They probably just stop listening to you right then and there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. They're like, oh, I don't know, boss. If it's not through Snapchat, I don't know how to talk to
Yeah.
him.
If it's something
Um,
I can't just like close and forget about for 3 hours, then no thanks.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's dude, it's tough. I think one thing that helps is, and this could be like a little housekeeping tip, but I think in general, people like to talk about themselves. So if you did have to go into a situation where maybe you had a question at a gym, uh, or you see somebody doing an exercise that looks interesting, you could always ask them, "Hey, man, like, how do you do this?" And then there's going to be this aspect of them, oh, okay, they want to learn from me, so I'm going to teach them. Most of the time, people respond pretty well. Uh, and it gives you a chance, you get some good insight. Every now and then you'll run into somebody who's really knowledgeable and they'll be able to break it down, and some of them might coach you through it or whatever the case is. But I think asking for help is a really good way to open up a conversation outside of giving just a general compliment. Um, but yeah, dude, it's tough. Gym culture is really weird because there's so many there's so many different areas of it. It's kind of how I've recently got into EDM, and I feel almost like all my questions go to you about it. Um, but there's the umbrella, and then there's small subcategories underneath that umbrella, and I feel like that's what people get with fitness related things is you have like your Planet Fitness, and then you have your powerlifting gyms, and then your Oli lifting gyms, and then there's CrossFit, and there's Strongman, and then there's like the movement enthusiasts, and everybody has different methods of teaching, and um, it's really weird, man. It's really hard to get into. I guess my biggest thing for people in general is just go move. It doesn't have to be a gym. Just go take a walk. Like if you have a dog, go walk your dog an extra mile every day or something. It's giving yourself more chances to be better. It's kind of following up on what you said about getting reps in. To me, reps is getting more reps in is anything. So if you're bad at dancing, so we did uh, salsa. We started salsa I think it was last September, and I can't dance to save my life. But getting reps, and I'm like, okay, these are bad reps, but they're still going to add up over time. And then getting more used to it, you're like, okay, cool. Like I'm starting to get a groove. I have a foundation that I can work from now. And then you just keep building into it. Those reps can go for anything as well. That I'm sure, as you know, it doesn't just have to be, I'm going to go get a certain amount of reps in of squats and see how that feels. Like if you try breakfast or building a habit, I'm going to walk a quarter mile every day. You start to get those reps in, and you're like, oh shit, this isn't anything. Or like if you work in an office building and you're on the fifth floor, and you're like, maybe I'll get off on the fourth floor and I'll walk up one flight of steps, and then you'll get those reps in. Maybe you do that maybe you do it for 3 months, and then on that fourth month, you're like, maybe I'll get off on the third floor. You walk up 2 flights, and then over time, like maybe next year you just walk up all 5 flights, and at that time your body is adjusted to those repetitions so much that it just becomes part of your normal day, kind of like your yogurt and protein granola. It
Yeah.
just, you get the reps in. Yeah,
And
it's
some of those things that I get came from the repetition of being exposed to somebody else who's already doing it, which goes back to what we were just talking about. Finding somebody who's already in the spot that you want to be in is crucial too. And it's not because you're leeching off of them, but it's because you want to expose yourself to the people who are already doing what you want to do every single day. It takes that to be able to think about, okay, every day at 6, I got to wake up and go to the gym. But if you've never gone to the gym and you're not a morning person, Well, there you go. That's a recipe for disaster. And like
Exactly.
most people think they have to do gym or they have to go work out or walk or whatever at certain times or I mean, you could do it literally any time. You just have to be able to find a time or a place or whatever that works for you so that you can stick to it. But the biggest thing for me is if you're talking with somebody that's already there. And and like you said, the small steps are fine too, because I didn't just start eating yogurt and granola every single morning overnight. First of all, you have to like the taste of it. That's, like rule number one. Two, I think
Yeah.
it's healthier. I mean, it could be healthier than that, but it's still healthier than like a sausage McMuffin from McDonald's, like what I was talking about earlier.
All right.
And and it's a nice morning, like it breaks up the monotony of what I used to eat anyway. So, and I can mix it up with different flavors, which is nice. And I can put in different kinds of granola too and mix that up. And now I'm starting to get to the point where I eat more fruit because I've been working with this dude for 4 years, and it takes a while sometimes to be able to get to the level of where somebody's at, to where they're just doing it every single day, second nature, because they love it and they don't think about it. But if that's what you want to be, and that's who you want to be as far as a person goes, then yeah, you have to expose yourself to the people who are already doing it, because they know what it takes, and it's going to get you in the repetition of doing it yourself if you see somebody else doing it. Because one, you're going to have the visual experience of, okay, this isn't so scary and it's not so hard. It's not as hard as what I thought it was going to be. And two, you're going to have more times to think about it than not, because you're going to be exposed to it every day, every other day, every week, and you're just going to eventually get in that routine. So I think that's two very big things. It's always who you know, but it's always how often you're exposed to something to be able to create that habit. It's the psychology of it a little bit, but it
Hmm.
also is what worked for me. And even what we're doing right now in terms of talking about it, just that helps too. Just being in the mindset of being able to talk about it. So
Absolutely.
it's not always just, hey, I'm gonna be a whole different person tomorrow. Maybe literally, because I started with this when I was working on my mindset. Because I feel like you have to have the right mindset before you can do anything physical anyway. But
Hmm.
if you're trying to work on that, or if you're trying to be in the gym every day or 5 days a week or whatever, then you could start with your mindset and focus on that, try to perfect that as much as possible. And literally all I did was open up YouTube and search positive videos, motivational videos. I found Gary Vaynerchuk. I started watching his content. I found Eric Thomas. I started watching his content. I found all these different people who were already fit and already in that position give advice to people like me. And then from there, 2 3 years later, I have this portfolio of knowledge that I can use at any given point. For example, this episode on the podcast, I can talk about it because I did it, and it starts with that, in my opinion, because I'm still building myself up, but I have a portfolio of knowledge to go off of now. So it definitely matters.
Oh, 100%. Dude, I love Eric Thomas. The first
He's
time
so good, dude.
dude, oh my God, I'll listen to one of his speeches and I feel like I can run through a wall.
Hmm.
Uh, he just gets me crazy hyped. Um, but yeah, dude, I think it's good to have really high levels of motivation, and you've always done really well on being there mentally and being really aware of everything, like the mindset that you talked about, because you can you can train the body to do a lot, but it takes a special kind of training to get the mindset to change. The body, realistically, you can have a horrible mindset and go to the gym and still see gains. But to change your mindset is, you almost have to look more intrinsically. And I think not a lot of people have that yet. So it makes it a little bit harder for them to make those jumps, just as far as being a better human. Um, but yeah, to touch on like your coworker, you you see people like that, especially like the older crowds. You'll see how well they eat and how active they are, and it's never like a, ugh, I have to do this. They're like, yeah, man, I'm gonna go to the gym. I get to do blah 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 blah. And I think what it is really is as we get older, we become a little bit more aware of our mortality, and it's like, oh, okay, we're gonna die at some point. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, tomorrow we you know we might lose our ability to walk. So I think as we get older, you start to appreciate like I can walk, I can run, I can do this, I can do that, I can ride a bike, and you become a little bit. I know it's cliche, but like you become a little bit more grateful for that. And on the same note, those people like sometimes like you see the older generation and they're working their asses off in the gym and they're eating well, and you're like, dude, I didn't realize you were 60. Like you looked like a cool 40. And then
Yeah.
you realize that it's just as much of a day-to-day thing as it or it's just as much of an investment as it is a day-to-day thing. And God, dude, I've talked to so many people now where like they still look really great as they're older and they're still able to move really well, but they're even at that age, like I'll have 45 to 55-year-old people who look great and move really well. And they're like, yeah, man, I even wish I started this years before. I started it when I was 35 and I've been doing it for 10, 20 years now. And I wish I would have started when I was 25. So you start to see like it does pay out, but it's kind of like dividends, dude. Sometimes like you buy into it and then you just gotta wait and then you gotta wait and you gotta wait. And you realize that it helps you afford a better life down the line. And not a lot of people um, think that far down because they're like, whatever. Today's the only thing that matters. To a degree, that's true, but I think if you're gonna have kids or grandkids down the line, you want to be able to move around and play with them just as well. Uh, that way, you can have those experiences. But that's
Yeah.
one thing that I kind of worry about is not being able to play with my kids because my body is too beat to shit, or you get too tired running around with your kid, and you're like, I got to sit this one out. Not knocking parents that do that, but I, I just want to be more involved, and I think that helps a lot on all aspects. Not to rant on that, but yeah, just investing in your health so you don't have to pay for illnesses down the line is one of my most favorite quotes.
Yeah, I seen when I had an accident with my leg a few years ago. I think you've seen the scar, but was helping my sister move, and I have like two little like circles in my leg now that are like scarred and all discolored and stuff because I
Hmm.
dropped a dresser on it. And when I was going through basically the healing process of that, I had to check in with a specialist every week, and I would sit in the basically the almost the same room every time, and there's always this sign right above the door before you walk out of the room, and it says if you don't make time for your health now, you'll be forced to make time for it later. And as much as I want that to click, I'm not there yet because I don't make it uh, a priority as much as I should. But I've definitely
Hmm.
started with my eating habits. I think that's a good place to go from at least starting from nothing. Where because some people have like good eating habits and bad or movement habits. And then some people have good movement habits and bad eating habits. I was unlucky with both of those, and I didn't really have good movement or good eating habits. So I'm just trying to like start with one and go to the next, and try to build up both at the same time is tough. So if I lose my motivation to go to the gym, then I'll just try to focus on eating a little healthier, and
Hmm.
then maybe get back to the gym and still eat a little healthy, but eventually get those two to balance, and then I'll be good. But yeah, that really stuck with me. That quote there, I was like, golly, you know what? You're so right.
Dude, yeah, it makes you think a little bit deeper, and dude, it's just so hard to explain because people have to experience it, but going through that journey literally changes you as a person.
Yeah.
Um, I so we had one girl join our classes. I don't know, man, maybe a year and a half ago, and she was really spotty at first. So she'd come in for a few, and then she'd leave, and then she'd come back and leave, and she had a hard time. Uh, it was one of those perceptions that if I start working out next week, I'll lose all this weight. So uh, she didn't see any return on investment. So she would just keep selling out. She's like, all right, whatever, cool. And then one day she stayed, and I think maybe 8 to 10 months later, she's down 30 pounds. And then from there until the rest of now, she's just been getting stronger. And she's like, holy shit, like I can see this muscle now. I can see blah, blah, I can see this. But you start to see how it changes. So she would bring her sister in. And then when she would bring her sister in, her sister's like, who the hell gets up at 5 a.m. to work out at a 6 a.m. class? Like, this is horrible. And her older sister, who said the exact same thing 10 months ago, was like, I kind of need it now. Like, this gets me started for my day. And you see how it changes you not only physically but mentally and emotionally as well. And I think you're already in that portion where from a mental and emotional standpoint you're already starting to evolve. It's just that everything else is slowly working its way to catch up.
Yeah,
Whereas a lot of people change physically first and then they're like, oh shit, they evolve. Some people regress, don't get me wrong. But yeah, finding a good path and making sure. One topic that I have wanted to touch on for a while is like motivation versus discipline. Um, Motivation is cool, but I think at least 90% of it is bullshit. Because when you're motivated is when you feel good. You're like, yeah, let's do this. I'm about to get this shit going. Kind of like the podcast, for example. It's like, yeah, I'm excited. I'm ready to do this. Let's get it on. Like, let's say your first 5 episodes, you're like, yeah, man, this is cool. Like, I'm digging it. And then 5 through 10, you're like, I don't know, but you're still doing it. And then you're all the way up to 18 now, and it's like maybe there's gonna be one day where you're sick or you're tired, or you didn't sleep well, or you just don't feel good, and you're like, I'm still gonna do this shit. To me, that shows more, and this not hard definitions of it, but that shows more discipline. Because to me, when I get motivated, I'm like, yeah, I'm really excited in that moment about doing it. But when it comes to actually following through with that act, that's where discipline kicks in. Because it's like, it doesn't matter if I'm sick, it doesn't matter if I'm tired, it doesn't matter if I'm hungry, I'm still going to get the shit done because I said I was going to get it done.
yeah,
And I think there's a lot of power to following through with what you say, because then it gives your words more affirmation.
of course. And it makes you a
Yeah.
more respectable person. And I feel like, based on what you just said, I've actually done episodes with sinus issues. In fact, my sinus issues, as of recent, within the last 6 months, have been probably the worst than they've ever been. I think I'm starting to develop more more prominent allergies, I guess.
Mhm.
I guess living in this area, talking to some of my family and friends right by the river, especially when it gets hot and humid, it just messes with your sinuses. So
Mhm.
I'm looking into like potentially getting some medicine. It still doesn't like affect me that often, but it's definitely more often than it used to be. So
Mhm.
I've done episodes with sinus issues where I sound like super stuffed up, and that people can definitely tell I'm sick. And it sucks because the podcast itself, like if it's gonna be on the internet forever, I want the episode to be good enough to be rewatchable. I don't think an episode where I'm sick and talking weird is rewatchable. But at the same time, I think the value in the content and the words that I have to say is there. So I think people are gonna listen and watch whatever method they choose to take in the podcast. I think they're going to do that anyway if they find value in what I'm doing. So I don't really care if it's super professional, like editing, super professional setups or anything like that, because I know the value's there. So that doesn't bother me.
Absolutely.
But I got to translate that to the gym and stuff like that, because the discipline for the podcast is there because it's something I love and I want to keep doing. Um, I just got to find the love for the gym, and then it'll just come natural. Because when you love something, you're just gonna do it anyway naturally. So
Yep. And it's hard to find that balance. And I mean, honestly, dude, there might be a point where you don't necessarily love it, but it's going to be the same way that you would crave pizza will be very similar to the same way that you crave movement. And it doesn't always have to be, if we come in and I have you run through a deadlift or some sort of squat session or whatever the case is, um, your body, once it gets used to it, it's like, oh shit, I need to move. I need to get up. And whether it's a walk or whether it's like A's and B's or bear crawls or whatever, like if you want to go play disc golf and you're like, yeah, I need to go move. And
Mhm.
I think that is a huge proponent, because once people get used to movement and they set their body in motion, it wants to stay in motion. And then it's like, I can't, I can't sit here and play video games for 10 hours. Not that that's bad, but it's like, I can't sit in one place for 10 hours and not move my body. Like, I have to get up, I have to adjust, I need to go take a walk. And I think that's in the habit building of getting used to staying in motion and giving yourself almost a treat, as far as like, yeah, I get to go move. Maybe I get to go play some basketball, or I get to go play catch, or go on a hike, or ride a bike, or whatever the case is. Um, I think once you set yourself in motion, just natural laws,
Yeah.
you stay within that
I
motion.
I totally agree because I'm the opposite. Especially on my days off, I'm like, man, I don't have to go anywhere. I can just lay in bed all day, wake up at like 2 p.m., play some video games. So I'm the opposite of that because the object that does not stay in motion does not want to move, whatever
Yep.
law that is. Uh, oh yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, that's definitely a good point. I need to get better at that. But
Yeah.
I tell you what, at the end of the episode, I generally do a Q&A. I didn't do one last week or the week before, I don't think, but I really like the idea of having a particular question that brings value to somebody who decides to make it all the way in to the end of the podcast, but something that might be a concern for someone listening. And for me, that question is going to be to you. So hopefully you got something prepared. In
Yeah.
fact,
Yeah.
it's gonna be a pretty cool one. My
Okay.
question is actually, what is the hardest part about you either getting started or staying with it? Because I feel like a lot of people eventually they see how hard it is to stay with it and to change their habits, and then they just give up. But if they feel that somebody who's already done it went through the same struggles, they might change their outlook on it. So what was that for you?
Uh, that's actually a really good question. The hardest part, honestly, is, to me, just doing the damn thing. Just going out and head down, nose to the grindstone. You just fucking do it. Um, and it's one of those things. I'm I've grown to be one of those people, because I would overthink things and kind of talk myself out of stuff. I've grown to be one of those people where I just rip the band-aid off, and I get it quick. So lately, my my thing has been, I'll count to three, and on three, it doesn't matter what it is, I just go. So just getting into it, whether it's movement, whether it's swapping out your breakfast, whatever the case is, because I feel like we've talked about some really regressed versions of that stuff, where it's you can still make success or have success in those fields. Um, so making sure that you do it, whether you feel like it or not, and it can be something small. It doesn't have to be like, if you make your bed every morning. So find something that is find something that's manageable that you can do, and then for the long term, make sure that you get into it enough to where you don't have to think about doing it. But at the same time, if you fall out of your routine, don't beat yourself up over it. A lot of times people will, like, you'll have success 3 months in, and you're like, I ate too much this weekend. Who gives a shit? Like,
Exactly.
it's yeah, it's like, it's not that bad. Like, one donut or one extra slice of pizza didn't make you 100 pounds heavier. Um, it's the habits. Having one extra slice of pizza every meal, every day, made you 100 pounds heavier. Um, so dude, like, if you have a sweet tooth, or you like beer, or whatever the case is, go fucking treat yourself, dude. What you're doing is hard work. It's okay to still reward yourself. So make sure that you do the damn thing, and then make sure that you treat yourself, and know that it's okay to struggle. I
Awesome.
think those would be the very general blanket statements for how to answer that question, I guess.
Dude, I love that. I love that a
Yeah.
lot.
Thanks, brother.
And by the way, where can people find you if they live in the Cincinnati area or if they want to drive a little bit to maybe watch your stuff on social media, and they find it there, and then they want to drive a little bit to come see it, what are your plugs per se? I'll put them in the description of the YouTube video, but just shout it out for me
Uh,
real quick.
on Instagram is where I'm most active at. I think I have a Facebook page. Yeah, on Facebook it's just Jacob Mills, Mills, and then Instagram is Catalyst_fit, FIT. Most of it is just a log of my own personal journey, and then sometimes I'll put like classes I coach and whatnot there. I coach out of Evendale, Breakthrough in Evendale. It's on the corner of Reading Road and Glendale Milford off of 75. And then I also have been coaching select times at Club MMA on Westbourne on the west side of Cincinnati.
Perfect. That's awesome.
Beautiful.
I don't know if you saw it, but one of my friends was looking for a personal trainer. I tagged you in it, so maybe reach out to him or anybody else watching the video or listening
Yeah,
in.
100%.
Maybe they get some motivation from this and decide to take the step, which is always the hardest one, is the first step. So, dude, I appreciate
Yeah,
you joining me
absolutely.
for this episode. I'm probably gonna listen to it back in full just because this is the kind of motivation that I need personally. But dude, I really appreciate you taking your time and doing this with me, man.
Yeah, no problem, man. I appreciate you having me on. I really enjoyed this.
Any final thoughts at all?
Um,
Is this your first podcast episode? Like, have you ever been on a podcast before? Or
I've been on one podcast a few years ago, but I wasn't as well articulated as I am now. Not that I'm well articulated, but it was rough my very first time. This is my first
tell me
virtual
about
one.
it. My first few episodes are terrible.
You've got the voice for it though, so I feel like I have to articulate a little bit better. That way I sound professional. Um, yeah, I guess final words, man. Just go have fun. Don't
Enjoy,
stress too
soak it
much.
in, right? Yeah, we talked a lot
Yeah,
about
exactly.
discipline and stuff, but soak it in. That's a good
Yeah,
way
dude,
to
it's a
leave
journey.
this episode. It is always going to be
Absolutely.
up and downs. All right, man.
Yep.
Well, appreciate you taking the time. For everybody listening and watching, this has been episode 18. I finally got the number right. I'll see you next week for 19. Stay tuned for that. I'll see you later. Peace.